Can I have your attention, please? This is the May 23rd meeting of the Scranton Planning Commission. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. King.
Mr. Murphy? Yeah, here. Mr. Glella?
Here.
Ms. Borer? Here. Mr. Chairman?
Here. This time I'll forego the reading of the minutes. Any correspondence, Mr. King?
No, Mr. Chairman.
With that said, under old business, the first on the agenda for old business, review a final land development plan by the Scranton Retail Plaza LLC to convert a medical office building into 8,500 square feet into market/grocery at 940 Jefferson Avenue, R20 zone.
Good evening. Good evening. We've been in contact with...
Please, Jeff, just tonight, would you identify yourself, who you represent, because this is being transcribed tonight, so we have to be a
Absolutely, I
little more
apologize.
official.
Sorry. Jeff D'Angelo from Greenman Peterson. I'm a senior civil designer representing Scranton Retail for the land development project, Valley Market, located at the intersection of Jefferson Avenue and Ash Street in the city. So do you want me to give an update of where we stand, John?
I could give that right now,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. GPI basically worked with our office in whittling down the list of comments. We came down to 4, which that's going to drop down even farther tonight. We issued a letter May 17th saying they had 4 comments. Number 1 being owner certification on cover sheet, signed and notarized. Plan prepares surveyor's statements on plan be signed and sealed. Correspondence shall be provided from the city fire department stating that they approve plans prior to approval. Don King met with the fire department on the 3 projects that are on our agenda tonight, and the fire department gave approval to all 3 projects, that the hydrants are in close proximity on all 3 projects tonight. So number 3 goes away. Number 4 was a stormwater connection permit shall be obtained from PAWC for final sanitary and stormwater system. Our firm, Labella, also is a consultant to the PAW, and on May 17th, they reviewed their stormwater management plans and calculations, and we recommend that they be issued the permit, so that's probably in the works. So we'll keep it as a comment, but it's basically taken care of, number 4. So with that, we would recommend final plan approval with the 3 conditions, 1, 2, and 4 from my May 17th letter. Donnie, what do you have to say on this one?
I would concur with that. Those 3 conditions, I would recommend final approval.
They worked really hard with us, and we whittled the comments down, and we resolved all the issues. Biggest one being that driveway will not be used between the 2 properties. It'll be an emergency exit only if need be. Stormwater calculations, once we receive the infiltration reports, we're fine. They do have a connection to the combination system, which we had to review under another entity because it's owned by PAW, and we concurred, and that's in the process. So they did a really good job. Everything is basically taken care of.
Thank you.
We covered, as far as the entrance off of Myrtle Street, we covered that with the buffer.
You mean the buffer? Yeah, you're providing a fence and some plantings behind the fence to screen the houses from actually Jefferson and a little bit of Myrtle Street over there.
That's correct.
Okay. In that long stretch of parking lot, you have lighting?
Yes, sir.
Lighting with top hats, so it won't disperse the lights all over.
That's correct.
Yeah. They presented a lighting plan
Yes,
to the engineer.
yeah,
that
we
was
reviewed the lighting plan, Mr. Chairman, and it concurred with the ordinance. There was no spillover onto the properties based on the, I guess, the luminary configuration.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good. That was a comment that came off.
Okay,
They had an approved lighting plan, is in with their package.
all right. Any other questions from the commission?
No, I understand you.
So the motion would be final
Final
plan
approval
approval with
with three
three
conditions.
conditions as outlined in the letter, 1, 2, and 4.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? Let the record, no? All right, at this time, I'll accept the motion to accept the
Mr.
three
Chairman?
conditions.
It's
Mr.
approved.
Chairman, I'll
Final
make a motion to approve it with 3 conditions.
Yes.
Motion been made in second. Roll call, Mr. King?
And just to clarify, the conditions are 1, 2, and 4
Yeah.
from the May 17th letter from our city engineer. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Galella?
Yes.
Ms. Borer?
Yes.
Yep, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Wake up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Once you get all the conditions, once you give Donnie the permit and everything else, so once we get the permit, that'd be the only outstanding one. You can leave with Don.
I'll hold them if you want.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna redo the schedule a little bit. Next on the agenda, under new business, is review of final land development plan by B.S. Scranton LLC to construct a 48-unit mid-rise apartment building adjacent to the existing Kildare's Irish Pub at 119 Jefferson Avenue.
Good evening. Chris Sespico from JHA Companies. I'm a civil engineer. I represent BS Scranton. Yes, Sespico. We submitted land development plans to the Planning Commission and also to Labella for review 2 weeks ago in preparation for this meeting, and we have since received comments, which we're currently addressing. The comments range from stormwater comments to plan edits, as well as commenting on receipt of HOP permits and erosion and sedimentation control permits. So those things are in the works now, and so we just wanted to present the project to you.
Yeah. Chris, just tell the commission a little bit about what the project is.
Okay, I do have plans here, if you wouldn't mind. If you haven't seen it yet, I would gladly hand them out to you.
Please.
I'm sure if I need it, so I only have 4 copies. You guys need it?
We'll share.
We got them here, so.
Thank you.
So as it was mentioned, it's a 48-unit apartment complex right next to the Kildare's Irish Pub on Jefferson and Lackawanna Avenue. Currently, there's a minor subdivision in place, which my client has already finalized on the property. And so that's one thing that's part of this land development package is a minor subdivision. I'm sorry, I said land development, but I meant minor subdivision, which should be on page 2 or 3 of the plan set. And we have received comments from Mr. Poshus, and I think they have been addressed and will be submitted for next month's meeting.
Just to give the commission and the chairman and the members an update, we met with Chris prior to the meetings, and he met with our staff and went over the various submissions, what we'd be looking for. And this is not unusual, don't get scared. It's always a lot of comments in the first letter, and they usually whittle away as we go down. I reviewed personally this minor subdivision plan, provided you with comments. They're minimal.
Right.
Very minimal comments. So most of your work will be in getting your outside agency approvals, your permit, and your, whether it ends up being an MPDES or just a county approval, whatever your disturbance limits are. The rest of them, you'll work through.
Correct.
And, our office will work through with you with any questions. So for tonight, being that there's no action to be taken, except that you should, our recommendation would be to just accept the plans for review and further processing. I believe you successfully, I know you did, you successfully went before the zoning board and obtained your, I don't know what actually you got, a variance, was it a variance?
Correct.
To
Right.
put this many apartments on the density, let's say variance, right?
Right.
So they're good to go with what they have, and being it's a downtown commercial, Don, you can speak to this, there's no parking requirements,
Yeah, there's no minimum parking
but
requirements.
they are putting as much parking in as they can. They're maintaining and realigning the Kildare's parking to make it more efficient. So, you know,
correct.
it's not gonna be it's gonna be a net gain
Right.
of, let's say, a net gain of parking spaces on the site. They hope to, I believe, I'm not talking out of school, Chris, I believe you hope to market some graduate students and even different people like that because of the smaller size of the apartments, medical school, and so there may not be a lot of cars in town really with the type of work they're doing,
Correct.
so it should work out.
This is a two-story building?
This is actually a 5-story building.
5-story.
Correct. There's like a lower level that has like a community area, fitness room, and then there's 4 floors of 12 apartments each.
Let me get this right. They're going to share parking with Kildare's?
No, the intent is to keep the parking for Kildare's, and because there's not a requirement. The idea was to not take their parking away, but just to maintain their current number of parking spaces. So there's going to be a separate parking lot designated for the folks using the restaurant. But there's a separate parking area underneath the building designated strictly for tenants.
Okay.
Yeah, the parking for Kildare's will be somewhere approximately in the same location as it's at right now.
That's
except
correct.
better realigned.
Correct.
Like it's kind of in the middle,
Yeah.
so it'll stay there, but it's gonna be more realigned and more efficient.
That's right. So you'll be able to, better traffic flow and parking situation there to meet the parking dimension requirements as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, with parking garages in close proximity to to this development, both the Medallion and the Casey Parkway, there should be arrangements, maybe, you know, there could be, I mean, that's up for later on in development if you choose to negotiate with the, you know, the parking authority manager to make arrangements for parking.
That's
monthly
correct.
Parking.
But there's no minimum parking requirement?
What's that, Kate?
There's no minimum parking requirement?
No, not,
No, not in the downtown.
Oh, okay.
none.
To encourage people to use the public garages and in recognition of the public garages.
On Adams Avenue, we have both the Casey and the Medallion garages
Yeah.
are both within walking distance of this development.
There is a couple other things in the works I'll mention is we've been in communication with an engineer from Pennsylvania American Water who manages the sanitary and storm and water system there. So we're in contact with their engineer to provide the necessary documentation as far as sewer flow estimates, water demand, and capacity requirements. There was a will serve letter for that particular utility supplied in the submission 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm aware of that conversation, Chris, because we meet monthly with PAW, Dennis Gallagher and myself, to go over stormwater issues.
Okay.
And your project came up, and they said they were working with you to develop accurate numbers for your connection permit.
Correct.
And they'll need a stormwater connection permit too, because some of the stormwater will be tied into the combination system in the alley, Crestler Court, I believe it is.
That's correct.
So they're on track, they know what they have to get done, it's just a matter of grinding out the numbers and getting everything done.
When you actually look at it, you're looking at, first you gotta okay the subdivision?
Yeah, when we get to the point of
Yeah,
approval,
when
we
we get
would
to that
act
point.
on the subdivision first.
First, and then
than the land development.
Then the land development.
Yeah, the subdivision plan was included in the whole drawings, and it can be there, but I
Yeah.
pulled it out and reviewed it separately to give them a heads up to get, well, Chris in the office was working on the engineering aspects of the apartment complex.
Yeah.
I looked at the land development, and the land surveying end of it, and got them comments. There might, a couple red lines, you know, a couple
Yeah.
notes, updates some pin numbers and so on. There was nothing big. Add the word final to it.
Right.
But that'll be recorded right with their land development set. It'll be one, we could probably take a separate motion on the subdivision, because there's a separate letter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then separate motion on the engineering plans.
But at this point, we would recommend that it be accepted for review.
Yeah, accepted for review. Anybody in the audience want to talk on this matter?
Good evening, Marie Schumacher. I attended the zoning meeting, and there were a number of issues that I either couldn't hear from back there, or I'm not sure were answered. The density requirement. The requirement was put on this development that they have 6 handicapped or elderly apartments. My question is, how is that enforced? And is it in perpetuity? And who sees that this is done? I'm not sure that a lot of old people would like to live with a bunch of 23-year-olds, but...
Well, Mrs. Schumacher, I would say because anything granted by the zoning board comes under the jurisdiction of the zoning officer. It's not before this commission.
So it's a zoning
It'd be the
officer.
zoning officer or
It'd be-
licensing and inspections, of which
inspection.
Jack Sweeney works under licensing and inspection. Am I correct with that, Donnie?
Yes.
Any variances or any zoning issues are relegated or delegated to the zoning.
And this is, I'm assuming it's going to be an entirely impervious surface. So is there any retention pool planned, or is it going directly into the sewer system?
I'm going to try to give you the answer. There is an infiltration, like a rain garden type area, and there's also underground storage, a pipe, no underground
is.
storage? Then I'm wrong.
It's going to be a green roof.
Okay, green roof, which is very good.
Vegetated roof system.
So yes. So that will
Okay.
be reviewed by our office as the city engineer for compliance with all the applicable stormwater standards.
Okay.
And they'll meet it. We'll make sure they meet it.
Okay. And how far will this be from the court, any structure?
Maybe, Chris, you could answer that? From the court? Setback from Cressler Court?
Well, there's no requirement for setback from Cressler Court, but I believe it's approximately 3 or 4 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like about 4 on the plan.
About 4 feet.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's no setbacks in the downtown commercial. You can build to the front line, sideline, and rear line.
Wow.
Because
Thank you.
you're confined in a density area, so that's
Yeah.
why it's like that, Mr. Schumacher. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by the commission? This time I'll accept the motion for review.
I'll make the motion for review.
I'll second it. No, I'm good.
Motion been made in second. Roll call, Mr. King?
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Glella?
Yes.
Ms. Borer?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thanks, Chris. We'll
Okay.
see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You may keep the plans. Thanks.
Like I said, Chris, just stay in touch with our office and any questions, or we'll try to get you, we'll work with you on this, okay? Very good, thank you. No, thank you.
Next on the agenda is review of final land development for proposed 4,893 square foot Sheets Convenience / gas station sales by Raidmar Development, Inc. at the corner of 7th and Linden, CG Zone.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Paul Manichello from Riley Associates, consultant for Sheets.
And
Tom Riley from Riley Associates.
Paul, would you spell your name for the stenographer, maybe?
Absolutely. MENICHELLO. Sure do.
I think we've resubmitted the plans. And,
Could you speak into the
We've resubmitted the plans and addressed the comments. I think we got a letter of review today from the city engineer.
I could speak to that, Mr. Chairman, if you want me to at this time.
Yes, please.
Okay, again, rather lengthy comment letter was issued last month, but again, through diligent efforts of Paul and his staff down there and Tom, they've worked their way through the comments. We issued a letter today, and I think we resolved even some of them tonight, so I'll go over them with you right now for the public. Number one, we recommend final approval with the following conditions. Again, it's the owner's certification statement to be signed and notarized on the final sheets. Plan preparers and surveyor's statement signed, sealed, and signed and sealed on the final drawings. Number three comes off, Paul. You have the MPDES. I asked them to provide a copy tonight, so they did get their MPDES letter. He was sending stuff back and forth between our office, and this kind of came in later. So we do have number three, so that comes off the list. Thank you, Paul. The HOP is still pending. That's number four. Number five is a minor one. We just like the city forester to take a quick look at your landscaping plan.
And I'll address that. I did speak to Mr. Santoli today, and he has done that, and he has approved the landscaping plan.
So number five
Number
drops
five-
off.
Number five comes off.
I see Mr. Sweeney's here. They'll submit their signs for your review. They're in. So they're just, that comment is just, it'll stay, but it's just pending a final review of the signs. We did meet preliminarily about 2 months ago with Mr. Sweeney, Jack Sweeney, our zoning officer, and it looks like the signs are in conformity, but they have to be submitted just on a formal basis, which I think you did. Or if you didn't, you will. Number seven, I think we were confused on this. I think the parcel right behind it with the grading is actually in the PennDOT right of way. I thought it was on another, where you kind of neck out, you're doing a little grading around the dumpster and up in the north and northeast. Will that be covered under your agreement with PennDOT for grading and clearing and everything there?
Yeah, that will be covered.
Okay, so then, we were confused, so that's under the PennDOT agreement, so number seven comes off. And I talked to Slipco tonight and the chamber in the back. This is being done under an agreement of sale right now, so once the final transaction occurs, we'd like you to, there will be a new PIN number. There may not be a new PIN number assigned to this. There'll be, but just add the latest deed information to your final plan for recording. PIN number should stay the same. I'm not sure if it's one for the whole site or how they did this,
Yeah,
but,
I think the PIN number that's on it now was for the whole subdivision.
so they will assign
It'll
a
get
new PIN number.
Yeah.
So you'll get that you'll get that when you file your plan. So just make sure it will be marked on there that it's recorded that way, with the new. You have to get a PIN cert at the courthouse anyway, at the assessor's office, so it'll work out. So that'll stay a comment, but it's really a nothing. So really what's left is the HOP is the final major outside approval.
And to point out, we've resubmitted within about 2 weeks ago. I spoke with the permit manager, and he expected to have a review in a week or two. And prior to the submission to the city, we had received an approval of the traffic impact assessment by PennDOT.
Just to let you know, there's one more step. They are going to submit any storm drainage that's built in the PennDOT right-of-way has to be sponsored in the HOP by the city, by the municipality. So Paul sent me the work, I sent that to Jessica, the form, that'll take a resolution to council to approve that, authorizing Riley Associates to submit on behalf of the city. Also, I asked for, and I received the draft copy this afternoon, and there was a little confusion. I don't need it for the site. We need it specifically to designate that stormwater facilities that are constructed in the PennDOT right-of-way will remain your responsibility for maintenance and cleaning in the future. We don't mind being the sponsor of the HOP, but we have to make sure that it's all tied into your site, so you can revise that and then get that back, and we'll get it up to Jessica to include. There'll be 2 separate resolutions, okay? Do you understand my comment? I sent the email, and I finally got a thing back that said, it's still trying to send it, so I don't know if it was your address or what, but. So you know what I could have had trouble getting into your system with mine, so you know what I'm looking for. And Paul has that on a sheet. He can give you an 8.5, 11, and that could be highlighted and put right with your description, you know?
I have a copy of a paper copy, I can give it to you.
I don't need it, Paul, really don't need it. We want the final one with all the language and everything. So, that's not a comment, but it's a part of the HOP process. So Donnie, what do you got on this? I mean, I did all the talking.
No, it's, at this point, they addressed all the comments, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Here's a copy of the memo from Don Kingdom to myself and everyone, to the commission, that he met with Chief DeSarno and Inspector Jack Joyce, and in the case of Sheets, Mount Pleasant Drive and Linden Street and Valley Markets, hydrants in front of their properties, and he went on to talk about the other one. So from their point, everything was satisfactory with fire protection as far as our.
As far as the site plan review.
Site plan review. It's not sprinkling or everything, which would be handled through
Through the building permit.
The building
process.
permit process, okay? So that, they did get the, that's why that's not a comment anymore. They do have their county approval. They got their MPDES, so the only thing is the HOP and the maintenance agreement, which is tied to it, right to the hip.
So right now, we're looking at 5 comments.
1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Anybody from the commission, would you like to talk to the engineers or developers, or everybody's here?
Did we okay some type of signage for pedestrian, school kids? It was discussed last meeting.
Yes, we were requested to add some pedestrian warning signs just prior to the right-in only driveways, the one on 7th and the one on Linden. Those signs were added to the plans.
Okay.
That addressed Mr. Gallella's concern
Yeah.
from last month. So
Yeah.
Tom, they're taking care of it. The signage is up that you requested. It's on the final plans.
Yeah, because I was very concerned about that, because even
Yes.
though the bulk of the children go the opposite direction towards town, there are quite a few that cross 7th Street, that come up 7th Street towards West Scranton. And that was my concern.
And if you do
Today,
notice...
John, maybe this is far-fetched, but I was almost involved in an accident today by that Dunkin' Donuts, okay? I mean, I didn't sit here at the time, and naturally, approval must have been given to them, but I came all the way down Mulberry Street, and I was going to go around. Well, there were cars in the left lane to go to the drive-through, but the car in front of me didn't want to go through the drive-through, but yet, you're looking at the light, you make the corner sharp. I was behind him, he slammed on his brake, I almost rammed right into him. And I'm thinking, this is because 2 cars want to go into the drive-in to get their cup of coffee, okay, where I don't like that setup there. And that was my concern about this setup here, with this, the traffic coming down 7th Street. Now, Jim did explain quite a bit to me that isn't exactly the same as the Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
No,
Am I
one,
correct?
you have 2 lanes there, so if for some reason somebody is stopped, you can go around them.
Okay,
But
so-
in this case, you'll only be able to make the right turn in. There should be no reason for you to stop unless there's some backup in the parking lot.
And there would
It'll
be a sign,
angled,
beware
so somebody
children
can't make a
behind.
left turn into there from the other, that's going in the other direction, if I'm correct.
Right, because gentlemen, I brought that up at last time we met here, that I like signs up there, alerting traffic, I don't care how many lanes there are. But, you know, the kids today, they don't look. I mean, by the bank, I've had to slam on my brake even if I have the green light, they just cross the street. You know, right or wrong, the thing is that the precautions have to be taken. And I cannot give an affirmative vote on this unless I know that you people will do everything humanly possible to safeguard the children. That's my concern.
Well, we've taken your suggestion and added the warning signs to the project, and the crosswalks, each of those crossings will have crosswalk markings on them, and will have handicap ramp markings and designations. So they will meet all the requirements for the ADA crossings, and will have both the pavement markings and the extra signage that you suggested.
Just if I'm correct, the three entrances to this site, there's a right-in, I'll call it 7th Avenue because it's past Linden Street, but I'll still call it 7th. There's a right-in there coming, so that'd be traffic coming in, let's say, a southerly direction. There's a right-in on Linden Street for traffic proceeding west. And then there's the main entrance and exit, which is on Mount Pleasant Drive, way to the rear of the site, pretty much at the rear of the northerly end of the site, to make them exit at the light at Linden and Mount Pleasant
Yeah.
Drive.
Your only exit is on Mount Pleasant Drive.
Correct.
Right, at the signal.
Yeah.
And that's a signalized intersection with pedestrian controls.
Which will be retimed as a part of their HOP submission.
HOP, yeah.
And so will the signal. Now, if you look, we did finally get, that was from last year, we did get 7th Avenue paved from Lackawanna Avenue all the way over to this intersection. We didn't touch the intersection because PennDOT just paved it last year. We refreshed all the pavement markings on the southerly side. So, you know, we have all of the fresh pavement markings there.
Thank you.
We looked at this early on, and from a safety standpoint, the driveway, the pickup is at the northerly end of the site, and the lane is separated to the right, let's say the easterly side of the site. There's plenty of stacking. It's not like some of these other drive-throughs. I'm a little disappointed with some of the earlier approvals. The one you said, Tom, the one at Mr. Galella at Mulberry Street and Mifflin Avenue, that backs up. South Washington Avenue, that Dunkin' Donuts backs up out into the public right-of-way. Because the stacking distance aren't long enough, but it's prior, you know, I mean, the engineer approved it, so it wasn't us, but, so what I'm trying to say is, we took a special look at this, Don and I did early on, and you have the stacking all the way around the side of the building and then into the back, so you should be able to stack, oh geez, I don't know how many cars on site, probably at least
At least 10,
10,
I'm thinking, yeah.
which is,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I think the bigger issue, more so than the stacking at the Dunkin' Donuts on Mulberry Street, is the people trying to make the left turn to get into the parking. Once you're into the parking lot, there is a good amount of stacking space, but it's the people that are trying to make a left turn across the lanes of traffic to actually get into the parking lot. In this case, we shouldn't have that, because it's all right turns in, and they're angled so that you can't make the left turn.
let's put it this way, in hindsight, we might have looked at that being rights in only today, but it was an
Today.
existing driveway, and it was allowed to remain two ways on Mifflin Avenue. We're kind of mixing and matching, but that issue is not here. We have rights in only, no left conflicts, nobody can exit there. I mean, you gotta be pretty, people will try to do it, don't tell me they won't, but it's gonna have to take somebody with some, it's gonna have to mount some curbs and do some crazy stuff to get out of here, so it's designed according to the standards, with the islands and the angles on the islands and everything.
Any comments from the commission?
None at this time.
No.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this matter?
So, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, may it please the board, my name is Larry Moran. I'm an attorney here in town. I represent a group of concerned parents of Scranton School District students. And I'm here tonight to ask that this commission delay or withhold even conditional final approval until two things can be accomplished. One is the Scranton School Board passes upon this issue. Our group has petitioned the Scranton School District, and we are on the agenda for consideration and discussion at the June 4th school board meeting, which is just 2 weeks away. So we're here to ask the Planning Commission to consider delaying until the school board can pass on this proposed development project, which is only a couple hundred feet from the nucleus, the nerve center of their student population. And the school board, or at least the directors who my group have talked to, have a lot of concerns because they believe that congestion there is already at a maximum, that most of the students are driving. They actually had their own traffic study done not too long ago, which they used to justify doing an RFP to put billboards on Providence Road because they know the many hundreds of thousands of cars that go by there, I think, on an annual basis. I don't have the data committed to memory. That's the second thing I'm here to ask you for. Our group engaged an engineer, a traffic engineer, an expert who would like to address this commission and couldn't be here tonight. He also is without the traffic study that PennDOT did in February because they made us go through a right-to-know process to get it. The preliminaries that we've been told have traffic increases up to 33% in that area. It's a safety hazard. It's a health, safety, and welfare concern. The issue, the parcel is zoned for what they need it for. So really, this is the last stop, is at the Planning Commission to ask this body to really be the gatekeepers of what is civil, what is right, what is proper for the city of Scranton. All due respect to the Chamber of Commerce for sure, Mr. Durkin is a friend in Slibco. There are lots of willing buyers for that property. I represent some of them. It's a great space for a professional medical center or an office complex, not for another gas station that's just going to add huge volumes to the already dangerous traffic conditions. So we're here with just a simple request. Please delay issuing final approval tonight. We would like to come back before this board after we know the will of the school board at its June meeting, and when we have our expert who is prepared with real data to address this board, certainly Mr. Gillella's, genuine concerns. And they're not phantom concerns, they really are real. The traffic in that area is going to be an enormous burden for the taxpayers, the citizens, but most importantly, the parents and the students of that Scranton High School. Moreover, we're talking about a couple hundred feet from the Scranton High School where they're going to be selling alcohol and marketing nicotine products, and the Scranton School District's parents are very, very concerned about that as well. It sounds like, according to Mr. Pocius, that they still need at least a stormwater resolution from council. And I've read with great interest that Scranton's council has some concerns about this too. So I don't know that that's going to be easily obtained from the Scranton Council, meaning are they ultimately going to get that HOP? We don't know. There are a lot of unknowns. It sounds like there are close to a half a dozen comments that haven't been addressed. I don't think it's a big ask to ask this board to not issue the final approval tonight until all the conditions have been satisfied. You know the will of the Scranton School Board. You've heard from our engaged expert about the traffic concerns, supported by real data. We don't have that with us tonight, and it sounds like they're really not shovel-ready with this project because they still need a resolution, at least one, out of this council, and I don't know if they're going to get it. Thank you.
Attorney Moran, would you care to identify your traffic engineer?
I will not at this time.
Oh, okay, good, okay. I mean, here's the report. We had it. He could have came in and got it from Don at any time. But you didn't. This is my copy, so.
He went to PennDOT. He talked to Joe Toludo in particular at the PennDOT office and told him he needed to file a right-to-know request, which they did. I don't know if he got it yet.
Well, all I know is.
John, I like you, and I'm not really looking to argue with anybody. I'm just here to represent the interests of my clients.
Don and I review, we have two things, our saldo. And there's state law and there's case law. And the only outside approval is the highway occupancy permit. And conditional approval shouldn't be held up because of an outside agency approval. Courts have ruled on that, Donnie.
Yes.
And the other ones are minor. Signatures, 1 and 2. The HOP is the only one. Zoning board is, when the signs come in, Jack will review them just with the building stuff.
Yeah.
So, and a pin, just that the final pin number be assigned, that's
Minor.
minor. It's up to you, but we issued our letter based on approval with the final four, with the conditions 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And, you know, I sat up there with you guys, and this is where we're at. It's up to you, it's your decision.
And with all due respect to the school board, our subdivision and land development ordinance doesn't allow us to abdicate our approval to another body. We have to make the approval based on the standards set forth in our ordinance.
Well, every important measure has to be considered, and the voice of the school board, which is obviously a significant component of this municipality, should be considered, should be heard. It's like grass car data.
I'm not arguing the school board's concern, but this is the first we heard of it. And also, we have a Loudon Hill project, which is right across the street from Memorial Stadium, which sells nicotine products. I don't know if they sell alcohol at
And
that
they had to go to
point.
the school board to get approval for that.
No, you don't.
No.
They don't need
No.
approval from them.
Donnie
My
sat here,
understanding of the
I
law
wasn't
is-
here.
My understanding of the law is within 300 feet of the school, you gotta get school board approval. I could be wrong about that.
I would say you're wrong about that.
Okay.
That's,
We,
They used to be, but they
I wasn't
changed.
here for the Loudon Hill approval. Donnie was for
Turkey
the whole
Hill.
Icebox approval, or Turkey Hill, or whatever it is, the Sonic, all those restaurants and everything over there, you know, that whole strip mall. But Donnie was, and that was not a condition
No.
of anything there.
No, I was here for that.
Sam, you were here.
Yeah.
You're like me, we were in this building forever, you know? Jay, you're pretty getting along
Maybe
in
I'm
the two,
getting close,
too.
yeah.
I mean, we're just trying to tell you what our saldo says, and Donnie's pretty familiar with case law, and it's your, if you want to delay this, it's up to you, but, I mean, we gave our letter saying, basically, this project's ready to go. The only outstanding issue being the HOP.
The HOP.
And I think Donnie sent me something in the mail this week or something, saying a project cannot be, approval cannot be denied because of an HOP. You gotta let it run its course. Because an HOP will be issued.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound that way. It sounds like it's conditioned on the Scranton Council passing a resolution that they're gonna sponsor the stormwater. How can we?
they've
guarantee
already
that?
passed a resolution authorizing the submission of the HOP application.
Well, I'm just saying, what's wrong with this, with this committee reconvening after that resolution has been secured and after the school board has waited on it and after you've heard from our expert? Doesn't sound like that's gonna delay the project. There's still a lot of things that they need to accomplish before they can put a shovel in the ground. We're not here delaying the project.
Again.
My request will not delay it.
The two roads are under the jurisdiction of PennDOT.
PennDOT.
So that's who has the final say.
PennDOT approved the traffic impact assessment revision.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, causes, occasion a new traffic.
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm sorry. Which they told our expert that they would only confirm that a traffic study was done in February, and that as a consequence of it, it's going to occasion installation of a new traffic light and a
No.
new traffic pattern. So we know that the traffic is gonna increase, and there's gonna be new traffic patterns.
No, let's just back up there. I can't let falsehoods be said. And I'm not saying it's an attorney, very intelligent young man, he's brought projects before here, but it's not a new traffic signal. We're adding line striping and extending a left turn lane, and there'll be some minor timing adjustments to the controllers to make a little more green time. And God bless. Am I saying that right? I believe that's right. The timings will be a little more green in certain directions, extension of a left turn lane, coming down Linden Street to make the turn onto, and some striping to tie it all together, and gore area striping. That's not a new signal.
It's an adjustment to the existing signal is what I said. I think that's accurate.
Yes, that's accurate.
That's accurate. This signal was just done in 2015, constructed in 2016 as a part of the CBD signal project. It's a brand-new state-of-the-art signal.
Yeah.
New controllers tied into the system down there. It's coordinated through the whole system down there, so this is a brand-new signal. We're tweaking it. You're not gonna see anything new with the signal itself. No new heads, no new directional arrows. You'll see striping, and something you won't see is, because you can't see it, but you'll notice there'll be a little longer greens probably in certain directions.
I will just in closing respectfully submit that perhaps it's plausible that our expert might have an idea or some consideration for this board that goes beyond simple signage that might make that area more safe. And what is the harm in delaying issuing a final approval tonight? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Kara McDonough Seitzinger, McDonough, City of Scranton resident and taxpayer. I'd first like to thank Mr. Moran for actually his presentation, because it answers a number of questions that I have enumerated along with copies of documents that I have here with me. Yesterday, or Monday, it may have been, a full-page ad was taken out in the Scranton Times by purportedly concerned parents of the Scranton School District. That ad cost $8,381.47. That's an exorbitant amount of money for a one-page ad. As Mr. Poches alluded to, this issue was addressed with Scranton City Council under the traffic signalization approval that they had first tabled at the auspices of Pat Rogan and Marty Flynn, who wrote a very bizarre letter to the Scranton Times and to City Council. That being said, I found out shortly after, and I don't know when Mr. Moran began his representation of these alleged residents or concerned parents. And again, I must say, he says he represents the school board. I spoke with school board members yesterday. Perhaps he represents the Bob Lesh School Board. Among the other things that we found out yesterday is that a Facebook page was created by the concerned parents of the Scranton School District. The first Facebook entry was Monday at 12:04 p.m. And it was this ad, this very misleading ad that I confirmed with Robert Walshek, who is a civil engineer with PennDOT, who I spoke with this morning. Mr. Walshek was approached by an individual or individuals and asked to pull documentation and schematics of the roadway and accidents. His words to me, and I quote, were, "That ad that appeared in the newspaper was certainly an exaggeration beyond belief of what he had pulled and gave to that body or that entity." And I have copies of all those documents here as well. Again, at 12:04 p.m. on Monday, this was added. Then at 12:07, this was added, another scare tactic to parents. At 12:05, that was at 12:05, that image. At 12:12, an image from Quandel of Scranton High appeared on that site. I spoke with Rhonda Beamer from Quandel. That was not authorized. That was pulled, pilfered, whatever, to add to that website. She reported them to Facebook, as did I. Number 4, Marty Flynn's letter again was posted at 12:18. There was another picture at 2:24 that said a red and X mark, no sheets on 7th Avenue. PennDOT reports from 2:28 to 2:33 p.m. on Monday. The PennDOT reports that I have in my possession and I'm happy to share with you that were obtained from Mr. Wasilchuk were also added. That's where I found his name. Googled him, found him. I thought it was his dad, who's a committeeman in Jessup. It's not. It's him, who's a civil engineer. The only thing I have to say is that the Scranton School District, I don't think anybody can refute the fact that parents and children in the Scranton School District certainly want to preserve their children's lives. And the reports which Mr. Poches has, and I have here, don't reflect that Scranton School District children are or going to be hurt, killed, or maimed by Sheets Market. That's number 1. This is extremely misleading, and if Mr. Moran can stand behind this, shame on him, turn in his law license, because he should be reported to the Bar Association. Again, there are issues such as nursing. They need nursing care, they need arts, they need to pay their bills, and they want their children to have an education. To say that there were 8 accidents over a span of 5 to 7 years is beyond belief. So if Mr. Moran has been representing these people who gathered up the $8,381.47, I wonder why he didn't have the report to Mr. Poches. The his traffic study report. So, I mean, I just find it extremely hard to believe that this is what has gone on, that at the 11th hour, Mr. Moran shows up. But I suppose we can go back and look at his contributions to various people. And again, along with this, many of the Indian community are here. They're also committee men and women in various districts in Scranton. And I have all those too here. And I'm happy to provide those to either Mr. Lockwood or to you. Our final position within the Greenridge Neighborhood Association is that Riley was retained by the city of Scranton. Riley Engineering has done the engineering report for the Meadowbrook project and for the hole in Mr. Young's yard. The city of Scranton has put their faith in Mr. Riley, or in Riley's expertise. And I would ask that you do the same. And in addition, I'd ask that you vote on what is recommended here today, because I'm sure we'll go before City Council again. But here's the larger question. If we stop allowing businesses to come into this city, permit fees, taxes, jobs, 37 exterior cameras that will light up, and be able to actually assist PennDOT and City of Scranton Police, and if there is an accident in that area, that is a welcome contribution to the City of Scranton. I just don't understand the timing of Mr. Moran, and I don't understand the concerns. I really do believe, from going to both the City Council meetings and researching this as I have, that all of a sudden it's a problem and that children are going to be killed, because it doesn't say that here. Thank you.
Mr. Moran, asked to answer briefly some of those comments.
I don't know what that.
He was not.
Well, there's other people in line.
It's up to you, Sam.
Whoa. We're not gonna get into an argument right now.
I would just like to address the 4 points that were.
Well, there's other people that would like to speak.
Okay.
Let them come up first.
Okay.
He said his piece, that's enough.
Again, I thank you and I ask that you approve this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rose Randazzo, and I am counsel for the developer, and I just want to make a statement regarding our critical time
A little
path.
louder, please.
Excuse me?
A little louder.
Yeah. We are on a very critical time path, and we need a vote tonight. We are planning on going in front of the council on June 4th, and we are planning on breaking ground on July 1st. We have been told by PennDOT that our final comments will be in the next 2 weeks, and they will be minimal. So to wait for a vote would impact the project, and we don't want that to happen. One of the other things that I'd like my engineers to talk about before we get into further comments is this 33% more traffic issue. I contacted PennDOT today. They supplied my engineers with a lot of data, and this number is erroneous. And we need to get it on the record and show what the actual increase in traffic is and what the actual crash analysis showed at the intersection of 7th and Linden. And I'd like to do that now, if we may. Thank you.
So the numbers that Paul are going to talk about are not new numbers. He's going to address the issue that was brought forth about 33% increase in traffic. And the numbers that he's going to present are just a distillation of calculations and numbers that are shown in the approved report.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, what I did was I looked at the, first I started with the trips that Sheets is projected to generate, and that's done by using Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation. What I did was reduce that total number by what's called pass-by trips. Pass-by trips are vehicles that are already on the road, they're on their way home from work, and they decide they need gas. They come into the Sheets, and then they come back out and go to their ultimate destination. So in a typical gas station convenience mart, there's a lot of what's called pass-by traffic. It's not new traffic. People aren't getting out of their house, deciding to go get gas, and then go back to their house. Some do that, but a lot of them don't.
And it's the reason that Sheets would locate at a site like this is to take advantage of that pass-by traffic. It's prime reason on citing it. And the numbers, the percentage of pass-by traffic are not our numbers. They're numbers in the ITE manual, which is the document that PennDOT requires us to get the numbers from for the traffic study.
Okay, so with that said, I looked at the new trips on Linden Street versus the average daily traffic that is obtained from PennDOT's websites, which is actual count data on those roads. I calculated a 9% increase on that section of Linden Street, directly in front of the store. On 7th Avenue, there's, again, adjacent to the site, there is an average daily traffic existing of 13,722 vehicles per day. With the estimate from Sheets, I projected about a 3% increase in traffic. And then when you get to the other side of the expressway in front of the school, the ADT drops off a little bit, 13,034 vehicles per day. Most of the Sheets traffic is probably going to get on the expressway. We have about 20% heading up past that in front of the school. So that calculates out to about a 1.2% increase in traffic in front of the school. And that's calculations, again, that's based on available traffic data on PennDOT's website and the trips distributed from the Sheets store. And that's new trips.
And those numbers were accounted for in your study?
Right, that's just a summary of what numbers are in that report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does any of the commission members have any questions on the numbers that they presented, just to make it clear? Okay.
No, that was helpful.
Good evening. My name is Attorney Brendan Fitzgerald. I too have been contacted by concerned parents from Scranton School District. There's been a lot of discussion about the actual increase in traffic, the number of accidents and fatalities, and there have been a lot of numbers thrown around. I have here with me a study from PennDOT for the last 5 years regarding the accidents. And these are just accidents that are reportable injuries. This doesn't include fender benders that'll obviously occur as a result of increased traffic. Even if there is a small increase in traffic as reported, there was still, I believe one of the figures was a 9% increase in traffic. There were 64 accidents causing injury, including 1 fatality last year on the stretch of 7th Avenue from Linden to Olive Street. 64 accidents over the last 5 years averages out to just over 12, so 1 accident causing an injury per month. Seeing an increase in traffic causes a danger to the health, safety, and welfare of the children of the Scranton School District, other pedestrians, and I would implore the commission to delay this vote so there can be more input given from the Scranton School Board and others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brendan Fitzgerald, B-R-E-N-D-A-N, Fitzgerald.
And since we're 3 lawyers, I just wanted to tell you that I have the same data, And again, it is being presented in an erroneous fashion. There are 65 accidents over 5 years. What they're not telling you is that 24 of them were only property damage. Most of them, 40%, were minor accidents. One fatality occurred on the expressway, and the intersections that they asked to be studied were 7th and Linden, the expressway ramps and expressway, and Olive Street intersection. When you take out the intersection that sheets will be developed on at 7th and Linden, you have 8 accidents over 5 years, all of which were minor accidents. So again, this ad that was in the Scranton Times, the information that is being presented to you has been spinned. It is erroneous, and we're asking that you vote and you rely on the facts of the engineers who have made this study. Thank you.
Just for the commission's benefit, I reviewed a lot of data, accident data, in my capacity as the city engineer in developing stop signs, requests, signing requests, no, whatever. You have to read the accident reports themselves. Just because there's an accident, you have to, and a large majority are due to driver's fault or some violation of the law, running a red light, following too close. So just because there's an accident doesn't mean it was caused by any specific thing. They all have to be individually studied, and it's just a fact. So you can get it, you know, just to say there's accidents doesn't mean, and some could be. A lot of them are careless driving. Case in point, very prominent case, Capous Avenue, and I think it was River Street, that one house kept getting hit. Actually, cars, and they landed up like in the house. So I was asked to do a traffic report by the chief of police, and I studied the intersections for sight distance and so on and so forth, and I got accident data. And of the 12 or 13 accidents in the last, say, 24 months or so, probably, I believe that 9 or 10 were because of running the stop signs. So traffic violation type offenses. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
they have to be read. I'm not, just because, you know, you have to read each individual report. And I thought that, to myself personally, I thought the numbers in the paper and that ad did not match anything that we saw in the report here.
Yeah,
That's just my professional opinion.
yeah. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for permitting me to speak tonight. I am here as a result...
Name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is John Foley. Among other things, I'm a member of the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association. I'm here because of the Scranton Times ad. Generally, I wouldn't even bother to show up for a meeting like this, but I was concerned that you folks might be swayed by an ad, which is possibly misleading. Now, let me first tell you, I have never done any work for Sheetz. I do not know anybody from Sheetz other than the introduction I received in the hall coming in here this evening. So I'm not a paid hitman for Sheetz. I'm a retired individual, CPA. Well, most of my career, I did work for major corporations, not-for-profits, all in helping their lawyers defend them when they were being maliciously prosecuted by the Department of Justice for fraud. I also did work for the Department of Justice and New York State, all in the area of fraud. So when I read something, things pique my interest. I look to see whether what is written is reasonably correct. When I looked at the ad, I saw that it was the concerned citizens of the Scranton School District. Well, I know a lot of people that send their kids to the Scranton School District. Most of them, at least in my estimation, would be hard-pressed to come up with $8,000 to fund an ad so quickly. I disagree with Mrs. Seitzinger. I believe the Scranton Times fees are reasonable, and they should be paid on time, as I believe legal fees are always reasonable, and they should be paid on time. I looked at the ad, and the ad stated that there were hundreds of accidents. I got 128 over 5 years. That doesn't sound like hundreds. When we talk about accidents, we talk about when they occurred. Did they occur at 2 o'clock in the morning or at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Well, of the 128, it doesn't say. It doesn't say for the 128 whether those accidents happened during the winter or the summer. So I reasonably expect that of the 128 accidents, some of them may have occurred during the summer when school was not in. They may have occurred well after school was out during the evening. As I know, when people pile out of bars, they go to Chick's and they go to the Glider Diner. Not that I've ever been there that early in the morning. I looked at the ad that said 33% increase in traffic. I had an AUSA tell me once, running in connection with a project, and I said, "What's your basis for that?" And he started to explain to me, and I said, no, it's snowing outside. And he looked at me strangely. I said, well, unless you look outside, you are never going to know whether it's snowing. Then he got the message that unless there's a document that shows 33% increase in traffic, 33% increase in traffic, accidents, it's just not going to happen. Maybe it will, but highly unlikely. Again, when I said the $8,000, it struck me. To get $8,000 that quickly, did it come from individuals or did it come from employers? Maybe gas station owners. I don't know. But those individuals would have the ability to accumulate $8,000 very quickly. So if that's the case, then maybe this issue is not a concerned parents issue, but it's a business issue. Well, I'll tell you, if it's a business issue, I look to the O'Neill Highway. I pass by it frequently going home. But what I see on the O'Neill Highway, I saw Quick Joe's. I saw a Sunoco gas station. I saw a Burger King and a McDonald's. Oh, a Dunkin' Donuts too. And who can forget Manny's Ice Cream? All of which were there before Sheetz ever showed up. All of those are in business today. Possibly this issue, possibly the ad, is not concerned parents, but concerned businesses who are concerned about fair competition. Individuals who want to give the Scranton taxpayers maybe some relief. Believe me, the minimus, the taxes they're going to pay to fund the Scranton deficit. But it's another employer in the city of Scranton. If somebody doesn't want competition and they want to kill it, but they can't kill it by saying that it's going to hurt my business, then you go the political route. You deflect it. You start raising other issues. Those issues are meant to muddy the issue. Now, with that said, the only other remark I have, because I had not planned on even mentioning it, alcohol. Oh my God, if alcohol is the issue, who in this room is going to close the Dugout, which is near Whittier School? I used to own it in one of my stupid days. Or Mickey Gannon's near Robert Morris. Are we going to see the concerned parents of those schools come out suggesting that the city close down those bars? Probably not. Now, with that said, I'd like you to make your deliberations based upon facts, not fear. With that, normally when I'm at a council meeting, I end by saying I'm going home to have dinner with my wife. But she has already told me that she has gone to dinner with her daughters tonight, and I'm free to do whatever I want for dinner. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know.
Hello, my name is Elaine Sporko. It's Elaine Sporko. It's Sporko. And I am also here after seeing the ad in the paper. I think if there are really parents who are concerned about their students being in that area, being exposed to accidents, that we should look at the one death that actually occurred on 7th Avenue, which there exists someone's shrine to it till this day. I pass by it often, and I wonder why nothing was ever done. It was due to a cyclist riding home at night who could not see because there are no street lights in that area. And she hit a pothole, went head over her handlebars, hit her head, and died. And that's what the shrine exists for. It didn't involve any motor vehicles at all. But what I see as something that parents should be concerned about if they have concern about their kids going to that school is why are there no street lights there? When the city took on the project of improving the bulbs and the existing lights, I thought, well, maybe they would put lights in where they were needed, but that was not the case. I think, children, students go there, and when we're trying to have to return home after practice, when it's dark out, they go to football games there, back and forth in the dark, and there are no street lights there. And that is just one area that I think parents should be concerned about rather than sheets. Also, I think that the signage onto the expressway is confusing. If you're, for instance, if you're traveling northbound on 7th Avenue, the signs that tell you where to get on the expressway are all the way to the right, when you would have to be in the left lane to get onto the on-ramp, so you can't see them. The cars, other vehicles are blocking them. You have the overhead street signs telling you where to go. But I think that the signs themselves to get on and which are the on-ramps, which are the off-ramps, are not well marked. There are no signs right where you get onto the ramps themselves. So that's the second issue. Third issue is that when the students leave the school, they just spill across 7th Avenue without any regard to stoplights, crossing where they're supposed to cross at all. Now, in West Scranton, there is a crossing guard for the high school students at the intersection of Main and Luzerne Street. Why high school students need a crossing guard, I don't know, because if anything, the crossing guard creates a more hazardous condition by having the students cross against the traffic light. But if whoever, dare I say, was the benefit of this particular job under the school district, why not put this person by Scranton High School and get them to corral the students into where they're supposed to cross, instead of having students just going out into traffic without looking. So I believe that if parents are really concerned about their students in this area, those are 3 things that they could take up, rather than some imagined increase in traffic due to sheets, which we don't know, if there will be an increase in traffic or not. But I think there are, those issues to be concerned about that they could better spend their time with. Thank you, and I hope that the issue of the street lights will be addressed at some time.
Thank you, ma'am.
They're the last word, so I'm only here to close the loop. John Posh just asked me the name of our expert. I didn't have it available then, I have it now. We have engaged Doug Hill of Worcester and Associates, Inc., they're traffic engineers exclusively out of State College, Pennsylvania. Mr. Hill couldn't be here tonight, but he will be. And precisely because I am not a traffic expert, I have not tried to speak to any of that data. I'm not qualified to do it. Neither is Attorney Randazzo, neither is Ms. Seisinger, neither is Mr. Foley. Respectfully, I don't know if either of these engineers are qualified as traffic engineers. We have an expert. We have a traffic engineer who would like to address this commission, and we are respectfully asking that you delay conditional final approval until you've heard from him. Thank you.
Just for the record, to let you know, Paul Minicello is a certified professional engineer registered in the state of Pennsylvania. That PTOE means, Paul, I'm going to say what that is, because that's the next step on traffic.
Yeah, it's a professional traffic operations engineer.
So he has additional certification as a traffic engineer. You can't put PTOE. Tom doesn't have it, I don't have it. We're professional engineers, but we're not PTOE. Just in my experience, both on the planning commission, on council, and from taking projects across the state and other places, it's entirely up to you, commission, but you are no authorization to wait for an independent traffic report. The traffic report was prepared by a professional engineering firm, a professional traffic engineer, was submitted through the proper channels to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, was reviewed, critiqued, commented on, brought back, and on February 12, 2018, they issued a approval of the traffic assessment and those improvements therein, and told them proceed with the traffic signal plans. So this was vetted with the Department of Transportation. They do look at accident data in the history. If this was a, how can I say, this would have been a real snag right up front if there was issues, Paul.
Yeah, typically, when we first approach PennDOT with the project, we go through what's called the scoping application process. We decide on what intersections to count, when to count, and all the technical factors. And really, if there were known accident histories or major problems with accidents at any of these intersections, PennDOT would know, and they would let me know to do an analysis and look at it. And that never came up, quite frankly.
If I seem a little enthusiastic, I root for the engineers on these projects. We make them work hard. When we get to this point, they've done everything they have to do under our saldo. Donnie reviews it, we make it go through all the loops inside the internal departments in the city, fire department, forester, we like to even look at the trees, so make sure we get the right trees planted. We make them do their work. And all these projects tonight, and I'm sure the departments will come in just as well, that they've done their homework. These are our comments that you've asked us to prepare. If I had concerns about traffic or accidents, I would have brought it up to you. I don't root for a specific project. I root for a project well done by the engineers. We've had good engineering firms come into this commission here. You've seen them, Sam, in your career. Yep. And Jay's been here, Tom and Katie, you've been here a little less longer, but to get to this point, to get it down from 48 comments to 4, and 2 of them are signatures, and 1 is something's going to happen anyway, the PIN number. Yeah. So we're down to the HOP. They've done their homework. we put them to the test as far as the saldo lets us do. So I don't root for a specific project or client, but I just root for work well done. And to get this far, for me to put my name on the letter saying they've made the test, they passed it, then that's where I'm at. So, you know, I just like when something is well done and they stick to it and they get it done and they stay on it and they don't drag it out month after month after month. They do the work. We always tell them, you do the work, you'll get to that point. And I believe they're there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Bob Durkin. I'm President and CEO of the Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce. With that, also our affiliate, the Scranton-Lackawanna Industrial Building Company. Oh, sorry about that. So again, I'm the CEO of both the Chamber and of SLPCO. I'm not going to take up much of your time, and I think we've spent an awful lot of time on really what may be ancillary, if not contrived, issue here tonight. I think we all know that. So, but I do want to, if we can, end this in a sense, giving you some general sense of what it is that we do and why we do this. Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce is charged by our members, and we have 1,500 members county-wide and region-wide, more than 500 of which are Scranton-based businesses. And our mission is really simple. It's to attract, sustain, and grow business. It's to attract, sustain, and grow jobs. And I don't think I have to tell the people in this room, many of you who are City of Scranton residents, that it's sometimes a challenge for us to do that in Scranton. We have tax issues, we have some other issues that sometimes make it particularly difficult. We're in a great time right now, and positive things are happening, and they're happening for Scranton, and this is one of them. When we developed the Mount Pleasant site, and I'm going to ask Andy Scripp, my Vice President, to just offer a few comments with respect to this, it was all intended to do something very basic. It was to bring business into Scranton, to create jobs for Scrantonians and in Scranton, and to establish and strengthen the tax base of the city of Scranton. That's what we do. And we have a situation like this with an organization like Sheetz with a national reputation, not only in terms as a business, but quite honestly, all the things that they do for their employees, for the communities in which they're resident. It's really important that we as a city and as a community embrace that. We can't be picking and choosing who it is we want, not because of any false information or contrived idea, but rather we don't want it because we don't want competition. That's not the American way. And quite honestly, it's not even legal. So what we need to do is we need to do what, as was said earlier, is to focus on the facts. That's what this is all about. I promise you that the Chamber and our affiliates will continue to do everything we can to support this city. We're also asking that this body, this commission, placed in a unique spot here, is in the important position to be able to put a stamp of approval on this and a validation that Scranton is open for business, and especially, in fact only, when it's done right. And in this case, it's being done right. So I'd like to ask Andy Scripp, our Vice President of Economic Development from the Chamber, just to give you a couple of figures that I think are germane to the broad picture of what it is we're trying to accomplish here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy Scripp, S-K-R-I-P, Vice President of Economic Development for the Scranton-Lackawanna Industrial Building Company, better known as SLPCO. I've been involved with the Chamber for 38 years. I've been doing economic development for 43 years. Most of my work is developing land and buildings. I've been involved with every single business park in Lackawanna County during my tenure. What I like to do is pass along, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
And I'd like to start off with the pictures. Before and after development of the Mount Pleasant Corporate Center.
Thank you.
Looking at the pictures, again, before, what it looked like. In the left-hand side is a large flywheel. We had air shafts on this property. On the right-hand side, if you recall years ago, it was an unsightly site over there where you had Keystone building block with building materials stored outside. In the middle, guys with spacesuits, we had to remove underground hazardous waste storage, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. The bottom left-hand corner were the foundations from 2 coal breakers the diamond and the Mount Pleasant breaker. On the right-hand side was we had to remove the old foundations of these breakers. When you look down below, you'll see the pictures, self-explanatory, before and after. What it looks like today, we're very proud. Hopefully you're proud too of what we developed over there, from an eyesore into a nice-looking office park. If you would turn the page, the facts. In the past 33 years, SIPCO has been involved with 15 business parks in Lackawanna County. 5 of them are in the city of Scranton. Mount Pleasant Corporate Center, Stafford Avenue Business Park, a portion of Gomorrah Corporate Center, the office park at Montage, and Stauffer Industrial Park. We, SIPCO, as I mentioned before, are a building developer. And we have built, in the last 35 years, 8 buildings that total 1.2 million square feet. 4 of those buildings are in the city of Scranton. They are the Scranton Enterprise Center, the Metro Check Center, which is the former Globe Store building that we renovated, leased to Diversified, and it sold it to the Lackawanna County, the Chamber building, and a portion of Bank of America up at Gomorrah Corporate Center. In 2009, we went ahead and decided to go ahead to make a better gateway into the city of Scranton. That's why we built the Mount Pleasant Corporate Center, for a nice entrance going to downtown Scranton. This was a former brownfield site, as I mentioned before, where we had the Mount Pleasant and Diamond breakers on that site. As I mentioned before, we removed hazardous underground storage tanks, concrete foundations, and eliminated acid mine drainage that was going into the Lackawanna River. We invested, SIPCO, $6,680,000 to develop Mount Pleasant Corporate Center. That is a lot of money. It was a very difficult site. Then we attracted Geisinger and Beacon Medical. They invested over $30 million with their medical office facilities. We're the ones who put in the new sidewalks, traffic improvements, the signals that are there. We put that in, we paid for it. Ensuring safety for pedestrians and vehicle traffic. Those improvements alone, as was talked about before, those lights, crosswalks, sidewalks, a new lane that was added over there, that cost $505,342. The city of Scranton's OECD came up with $250,000. Again, the city was a partner in this project. The city owns and maintains the roads within the park. In 2005, part of this site was owned by the city. The Scranton Redevelopment Authority sold the Keystone Block to make this deal, the park, a reality. In the past, there was a KOZ. The KOZ was approved by the city, by the county, by the school district. Unfortunately, that program has expired. We have the proper zoning for Sheets. Also, the taxes being generated right now between the Beacon Medical Building, SIPCO, and Geisinger is over $850,000. And keep in mind, only 2 out of the 5 sites have been developed so far. There's a lot of money coming into the city as well as the school district. Sheets is proposing a $4 million investment into Scranton. Right now, within the park, although there's only 2 buildings, there are 4 companies that employ 189 employees. Primarily, and the visitors coming in every day, primarily for medical visits for the residents of northeastern Pennsylvania. Colts, to make it safe, has bus service going into the park. The Mount Pleasant Corporate Center was a partnership between us and the city of Scranton. I urge your favorable consideration tonight for the vote. This was a true public-private partnership between SIPCO and the city of Scranton. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? I just have a few comments. I appreciate everybody that has talked and what they have talked about. One concern was if the school district had a problem with this thing, why didn't they send someone to represent the school district? Second, numbers. One number could be this, one number could be that. They're taking an empty lot and they're putting something profitable in it. And I always said competition. I own my own business. Competition's the greatest thing. It only makes you sharpen your pencil and work harder. And that's all I have to say. Any comments from the commission?
I have one comment. I don't think competition is the main issue here, Jimmy. If anyone is saying that as an excuse, I think it's ridiculous. Everything I've been involved in, I've had tremendous competition. And it's up to you to make your business successful, which you had a successful business, and I invested in about 3 different businesses, and thank God they were all profitable. So I don't think that's an excuse. I don't think that's a negative vote.
I'm not using it as an excuse.
No,
I'm just
I know.
using it as a comment.
I'm on your side when you said that. Okay? How about you?
No,
Okay.
not this time.
I don't have any comments.
Okay, with that said, we're looking at a final.
Actually, could I say it, Donnie? I mean, it would be, recommend final approval be granted by the commission with the following conditions being items 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8 of my May 23rd, 2018 letter to Don King, the city planner, with copies to the board, to the commission. That would be, for the record, that's the motion. We need a motion and a second and a vote.
I'll make a motion for final approval with conditions 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8.
I'll second it.
Motion been made in second. Roll call, Mr. King.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gilella?
Yes.
Ms. Boer?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Say he needs over. Did you say he needs over?
Yeah. I just added that. Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.